anyway.
All right, please silence your cell phones.
See, I wasn't ready for that.
Mm-hmm. That's my new agenda for the day.
Yep.
All right.
Your next agenda is to remind me to turn that little button back on when we.
All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Code Board for September 10th, 2018, City of Titusville. The city desires to accommodate persons with disabilities. Accordingly, any physically handicapped person pursuant to Chapter 286.26 Florida statute should at least 48 hours prior to the meeting submit a written request to the chairperson that the physically handicapped person desires to attend the meeting. Any person who decides to appeal any decision of the Code Enforcement Board with respect to any matter considered at this meeting will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record includes the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. Any person or defendant who requests to review or object to any exhibits presented to the Code Enforcement Board by the City of Titusville prior to submission to the Code Enforcement Board must stand and state their request to review the exhibits prior to review by the Board at the time their case or agenda items comes before the Board for hearing. Any person found to be in violation of the City of Titusville Code of Ordinances and given a time frame in which to comply shall, upon compliance, be responsible for contacting the Code Enforcement Supervisor for an inspection to verify said compliance. The violation will not be considered to be in compliance until the Code Enforcement Supervisor is notified and verifies compliance. We have a quorum. Only one missing is Gina, and she's out due to medical reasons. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have a new board attorney, and you're going to think I'm crazy. But I can't remember your last name at this time.
Deborah Nutcher.
That's right.
Happy to be here.
Deborah, I remembered, but I couldn't remember. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. You'll introduce yourself to everyone, to the audience, please. Again.
Good afternoon. Deborah Nutcher, Code Board Attorney.
Okay. Would you like to swear in the staff, please?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the last board meeting? Any concerns, changes, whatevers? I need a motion.
Move that we approve the minutes of the meeting of August 13th.
Yeah, put the microphone on.
Move that we approve the minutes of the meeting of Monday, August 13th.
Second.
Did you get a second?
So you got a second. We got a second. We have motion by Joe, second by RL. Any questions, concerns? Roll call vote, please.
Member Ozon? Yes. Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Herman?
Yes.
Member Moniz? Chairman
Moniz.
Yes, again, we were having trouble.
Chairman Bell?
Yes. Okay, so moved. All right, Chelsea, would you like to get started, please, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Just as an initial opening comment, I'd like to make all of the board members aware of the microphones, and the red light is required if you're going to speak. The reason I just want to make this announcement, I'm probably going to make it for the next several months, is because the city is investing in software to get closed captioning on our videos. And the encoder will require good audio, and each person must be speaking into the microphone. If you speak sideways, the audio can't pick up. So I just wanted to drill it on home for everyone that you do speak directly into the microphone.
You've got to really remind the city council of that.
I'm working on all of the boards and commissions, but starting with you guys here today. So we'll get started on the agenda under old business. And the first case that's listed on your agenda is number 18-74. The case is one that has already entered a final judgment, and you've already heard this case. The reason I'm bringing it before you is because my office became aware of a change of ownership that happened during the course of this case. The property is no longer owned by Mel's EQ LLC. The property was transferred to Itani Properties LLC on April 19th, 2018, and this board heard the final hearing in June 2018. And the final judgment has been entered and recorded on the public records. And after meeting with the Code Enforcement Board attorney, we have agreed that the judgment remains against the existing property, although the named respondent, Mel's EQ, is no longer the current owner of the property. So I'm having this case on the agenda to bring it to your attention so that you know that this case has changed slightly, but there's no action required on your part today. Are there any questions?
What was that name?
Itani. I-T-A-N-I.
Okay.
The next case on your agenda is number 16-115 for the property located at 5001 River Edge Drive. This case has previously been presented to the board, and you have requested a monthly update from the city regarding the progress that has been made for the violations listed for the property that include subsection of the International Property Maintenance Code, section 6-109, subsection 304.10, stairways, decks, porches, and balconies, as well as the second violation of the International Property Maintenance Code, subsection 304.2, protective treatment paint. The building permit was issued on July 6, 2018, and substantial progress has been achieved as we have heard updates from the owner of the property to Code Officer Crisco. Officer Crisco, would you like to join me at the podium to update the board on the progress that has been made? And I'll then invite Gary Stepalovich, the building official, to provide testimony.
Gary will go over the permit phase. I was instructed by Pat Bell to make sure I go out weekly. I took the pictures on August 21st. It looked the same from previous months. Oh, good, okay.
What's the date of this photo, Bob?
August 21st.
Thanks.
On August 28th, same, no change. Went out at 9/6, and the wall was constructed, so there was some type of progress made. And this morning, Mr. Gaudio was diligently working the sander underneath his tent and didn't even see me, so he's working. As far as the technicalities, I guess Gary would be able to. We did get an email from Mr. Gaudio where he finished, this was the other day, he finished the building door and the window bucks. He removed layers of concrete. He removed the neighboring slab concrete. He was finished forming electrical service, and he extended the detailed design of the outer wall, which you can see by the pictures.
Would you like to show the photos to the board and enter them into the evidence? Please hand them to the board attorney. Thank you. Thank you, Officer Crisco. Mr. Stepalovich, could you join me, please?
I could. I will. Thank you.
Have you had an opportunity to review the building permit or the progress for the property located at 5001 River Edge Drive?
I have.
And do you have any comment regarding any progress that may have been made since the board last heard from you regarding this property?
There's been no additional inspections on the property. The one and only inspection that we've had so far was on July the 10th, which was a partial approval of a footing for the south end of their building. Since then, there's been no other approved inspections or even failed inspections at this point.
Okay, and what is the next inspection that you anticipate for this property?
I would expect another footing inspection to complete the concrete work for the supports of the structure.
And is that consistent with the photographs that you saw Bob demonstrating that he was working on?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the building official?
Is Mr. Gallio supposed to call you for the inspection?
Yes, he's required to call me at various phases of the inspection, whether it's framing, footing inspections, buck inspections of that sort.
And he's aware of that?
He's aware of that,
Okay.
yes, he is.
All right. So you're waiting on the next phone call from him?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So hopefully that'll be done by the next meeting, by next month, you would think? Who knows? All right.
I don't know how long it will take for the owner to call the building official. The owner is not here for you to ask him that question directly. If you don't have any further questions from the building official, I'd like to allow the code board attorney to have an opportunity to discuss the duration of this case and some potential fallbacks that the city may suffer if a case is taken on for too long. We had conversations about continuing cases repeatedly and the effect legally that has, as Ms. Nutcher is a very experienced litigation attorney for appeals that are related to code enforcement matters. And so I think that this might be a good opportunity to have her answer some questions and explain why it would be a better position for the city to make a final judgment and get an order imposing the fine if that is the case, or to have a discussion about why this case should or should not continue for several additional months.
Madam Chair, would you like me to expand?
Yeah, go ahead.
I did notice, and I did have a conversation with staff attorney earlier today. I did notice, in particular in this case, where you were continuing it many, many times. Based on my experience, I would highly recommend that you not continue the compliance or non-compliance finding hearing. So this is supposed to be your compliance hearing, and you keep continuing and continuing. Well, what that does is it never gets the fine running, and the fines are your #1 tool to achieve compliance. That's your main tool. And when you don't ever impose the fine and keep giving more time to comply, witnesses could be lost. We might have changes in staff. We might have changes in board member. You might forget what happened at your initial hearing and why you found them in non-compliance to begin with. I would recommend that you not continue the matter and, in fact, go ahead, find the property in non-compliance, which is what staff is presenting to you, information that they are still not in compliance, so that the fine gets imposed, it starts to run, the lien is on the property. And I have found in my experience, that's the best way to get people to move, is when they know they've got a fine running on their property and a lien on their property. I specifically am dealing with a case in another local city where it's been going on 5 years because that property owner had been given so many chances to come into compliance, and they eventually appealed the decision of the code board, and now we're in bankruptcy court on it. And had the board just at their compliance hearing just found the person in violation, I have no doubt that person would have gotten their act together and got the property fixed up. So that's my 2 cents on the habit of continuing and continuing to give more time, but you're really not giving them more time in terms of the fine, because the fine will retroactively be imposed from the date you set forth in your initial order. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to keep continuing this hearing. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much.
I had a question for the
Yes,
building
for Mr.
inspector.
Stepalovich?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Is the owner of the property doing this repair himself? And is it required by the building codes that it be done by a licensed contractor, since he's dealing with concrete walls and that?
As a property owner on a single-family home or a townhouse, you as the owner, you're permitted to do your own work as long as it's code compliant. He lives in a townhouse, he can do all that work, the structural work, electrical work, plumbing work, on his own.
You may recall from prior testimony that he's an engineer, not a general contractor, but he is using his own skill set to perform the work.
I'm aware of that. It's just wasn't familiar with the owner of the property, owning the townhouse, and not being a licensed contractor, but he was still able to do the work on that. Now, he lives in that townhouse.
That is correct, and that's the other caveat. You have to be the owner. You have to have it as your residence or of your own personal use for at least 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
As I recall, looking at the minutes, we required him to make monthly progress reports to the code enforcement official or the board until compliance is achieved. I wouldn't have any problem doing that next month, but to do it today is going in difference to what we discussed last month.
Well, and actually what we could do is we could find non-compliance, but we could make the order to correct 4 months from now, 6 months from now, to give him the window that he wanted, instead of continuing the case.
I would not recommend doing that. That deviates from your initial order, your initial finding of violation and setting a date of compliance. You don't want to change your date of compliance.
Have we already done that?
Yes, I think we did, didn't we, for January, for him?
How could we do it if because we really wanted to know when he would be,
His
when he would
permit,
finish.
if I remember correctly, expires in December, January of, December this year or January of next year?
Well, he has the option to renew at 6 months from July 8th. So he has an option to go through January 8th of 2019 through a permit.
That's correct. It's 6 months from July 10th, the last approved inspection.
This case was initially presented to the board
2016.
on October 10th, 2016. And at that decision of the board, the exhibits were presented, the finding of facts were made, which said that the 2 violations I cited earlier were found to be in violation, and it was ordered by this board on October 10th, 2016, that the defendant is adjudged in violation of the Code of Ordinances, and he was given until 9 a.m. on December 12th, 2016. So you gave him 2 months at that hearing to correct the violations as indicated in the finding of facts, or to appear on December 12th, 2016 to show why he has not corrected those violations. So that's the history of when the case started.
In your, do you have in your files why we kept it going?
Yes, because the owner had an active building permit, and he had a window of time through the active building permit that was issued by the city to do the work. And he explained that he couldn't paint the deck outside of the exterior of the structure until he did the interior, the structural foundation and the walls that he needed to make repairs to. Until that internal portions of the work were done, then he could complete the exterior, which is what is the subject of the complaint, is that exterior painting and balcony work. That work hasn't been done and won't be done until the foundation is completed in its entirety and inspected.
And if I remember correctly, he invented his own tools to do this.
Excuse me?
He made his own tools to do this.
He had to source tools that were very difficult to find, he said.
I don't know what to do with him, to be honest.
In June, the permit that he previously was issued had expired. And in June, you heard from the building official who said that they need to have new applications submitted to the city in order to get active building permits to do the work that he wants to do. A new building permit was applied for and issued on July 6th. As you heard from Gary's testimony, a partial inspection for the footing was done that week. So progress, we've seen some this summer, but it's been very slow throughout the course of the case because the owner is doing the work himself. That was evident from the beginning. He's admitted that if he hired someone, it would move along faster, but for cost sake, he's doing it himself. So that is the summary of where we are at 5001 River Edge Drive. The property remains in violation, and he has not corrected it. I understand with Mr. Richardson's statement that he is expecting monthly progress, and I think it's reasonable to order the owner to come and appear before you, or a fine would be assessed at the next monthly meeting.
Yeah, before we do that.
But as the attorney has indicated, the board has the ability to impose a fine back to 2016. Can you imagine how much that would be if we imposed a fine next month for the past 2 years? And so that is why we need to keep these cases moving along rather than ongoing for 2 years, because we create this situation that it becomes very difficult to decide what to do with the owner of the property, which is where we are at today.
And our only two options are to either continue again for more progress or to go retro to 2016 and enact the fine and lien.
Well,
No.
really, what you should be doing at a compliance hearing is finding the person either in compliance or not in compliance. And really, it's not the purview of the board to get into the details of how they comply. It's not. It's really not. You find them in compliance or not in compliance and impose the lien. That's your job.
Attorney Ledger.
Nutcher.
Ledger?
Nutcher.
I got it
Nutcher.
spelled wrong, I'm
Nutcher.
sorry.
Like butcher
I'll
with
get
an
it.
N.
Okay, this particular case, can we find them not in compliance and go ahead with the second hearings, finding them in continuous violation at this time?
Yes. You can fine the owner in non-compliance, and what that does is it runs the fine from the date you set in your initial order,
And that would be,
the December 12, 2016, and that imposes the lien on the property for the fine, and it continues to run until that property is brought into compliance.
that would be substantial amount coming to this point. Okay.
But that's what Florida statute provides.
I think that there can be a compromise in this case, that the order from today, if the board is inclined to continue and demand Mr. Gaudio to appear next month, then you will have to understand that the only thing that you're extending is the ability of him appearing before you so that you can make that same decision, because we don't anticipate that compliance will be achieved in the next month, because so much work needs to be done before that could happen. So hypothetically, you're suggesting that if we continue this case for 1 month, then if he appears before you, you're going to be in the same position to make that vote of whether or not this property is in compliance, or you want to kick it down the road.
This could potentially give him the incentive to get somebody to help him.
That's what we're trying to express, is that if there was a fine imposed against the property, then the owner would be more inclined to clean it up.
Because it's a $50 to $250 a day fine.
And it's within your discretion to decide how much that is.
And we basically told him last month
No,
that
not
he
last
didn't
month.
have to be here,
No, not last month, the month before.
And give progress reports.
as long as he gave progress reports.
I mean, it would be completely
So
not what
if we
said.
call him in for next month's meeting, I'm in favor of that. But if not today,
Well,
because we're not doing what we said.
if the objective is compliance, then why can't we just focus on a 3-month time window? Something very small, but possible. You know, he probably couldn't finish that by next month, even with 10 contractors' help. So if we gave a small enough window so that compliance could be achieved or the fine could run, but he has a head start to get the work finished. I mean, I could look at the guy and say 3 months, you know, you have 3 months to get this finished, or you're gonna be slapped with tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay, I have a question. Have we set a precedent with him by giving him this monthly time frame to
I don't-
show progress?
I don't think you've changed the fact that he was supposed to comply by December 12, 2016.
Okay.
I mean, I would not have recommended that you do the monthly reporting, but you did. But I don't think that changes when the fine will start to run once you find him in non-compliance. It doesn't change it. Even if you kick it down the road, give him 3 more months, you're giving him 3 more months, but it just postponed the inevitable. If he's not in compliance now and he's not in compliance in 3 months, the fine still starts to run from December 12, 2016.
Yeah, but what we're hoping is that the threat of that makes him get in compliance in the next 3 months.
Sure.
The threat of the impending 2016 on.
But that was that was your order back in 2016 was the
But
threat.
prior to you, we've given him the impression that he has some slack. So we can't stand here and come down on him like that. We have to give him an opportunity to do the right thing in the right amount of time.
That's the board's
So
prerogative.
can we request his presence at the next board meeting and give him more or less the ultimatum that this has to be done?
By the end of the year, end of
Well-
2018, or that is the date that it goes retro.
And you're,
We're giving him some more rope, and, you know, we've gotta hang him or cut bait, one of the two.
Yeah, but when are we gonna run out
Out
of
of
rope? I
time?
mean, this
Well,
case
it's
has been
gonna keep
going
going
on
on, but
since
maybe this would give him the
2016.
incentive to get some help to get it done. I mean, even, remember his HOA came in here,
Yes.
and they were upset? Are they
Right.
fining him too? I
Yes.
mean, that's the other thing.
Can we also use the requirement to get an inspection as part of the ultimatum that we provide?
no, I wouldn't recommend that because that's staff's issue. Your issue is just get into compliance. I mean, it doesn't really matter to the board how he gets into compliance.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's our goal. Our goal is not to sweet coat it and let him do whatever for the next 15 years. And it's getting to be that way. So it's 2 years. We're already 2 years into this.
Well, I think,
We've
I
had other
think the big
cases
thing is though
like
that
this
we've,
that have-
that we've, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
that we've kind of given him some leeway last time we spoke with him. And I think it would be an injustice to say, okay, now we changed our minds, we're not going to do that anymore. So I think we need to find some type of medium situation so we can bring this to a close. We just got to find out what that is and get it wrapped up.
I have one quick. Bob, does he call you every week or you just go over there? Does he call
Officer
you
Crisco,
every
could you
week?
come up here?
Because he was supposed to contact you or Glenn.
Officer Crisco, have you been contacted by phone or email from Mr. Gaudio?
Just email, and I happened to see him on 2 occasions at his residence. Of course, this morning he was working, he didn't really see me. And then Friday or Wednesday of last week, how you doing, whatever, all right, that was it. Nothing like, yeah, I'll get it done. It was just nonchalant, you know.
Well, to me, giving a report is telling you, this is what I've done, this is what's completed, this is where I'm going next. And he's apparently not doing that either.
But he has sent an email, right?
He just 2 emails, that's it.
2 emails.
When were the
When you guys
emails?
told him he had to communicate with us. Other than that, all our violation notices have been ignored.
Officer Crisco, are you satisfied with the amount of work that he has done in bringing this into compliance over the period of time that we've been dealing with this case?
Am I satisfied? No. And we're talking a case that's been 2 years.
Yeah.
It should have been done
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Right.
And it should have been
I
done in the
didn't,
6-month
myself,
window.
I didn't realize that it was, this
Yeah.
case has been going on for 2 years, but
As far as this progress,
yes.
I'm not a foreseeable person in the future, but prior history, it might stop and go on again if he has more time, without the fine. That's my own personal opinion.
Could I ask, when were the emails sent?
Do you have the dates of the emails you received from Mr. Gaudio?
I mean, were they recently, like in the last 6 months? Okay.
So that's not even in compliance with what we asked for.
Yeah, we just asked for one update a month. That is in compliance. We
It
asked
is.
in July for an email. We got one in
I don't-
August and one in
I thought
September.
we asked weekly updates for him to get a hold of Bob.
Monthly.
Monthly progress reports.
Correct.
Well, that's in here.
The first email was August 8th, and the other one was September 5th.
Okay, so he is making, so that is his monthly update.
Yes.
I'm sorry to say so, but I think, well, I'm not sorry to say so, but I think the city and the board attorney is correct here. Come January 2019, I foresee another permit request being submitted, and this will continue on for another 6 months. at a loss of what we can do about it, because I really think we dug ourselves into a hole here.
We can,
You
we
know,
can
I mean,
find them.
We we can find them, but we're due, like Ashley was saying, like Mr. Richardson virtually saying, is that we tell a person one thing one month, and the next month we change our mind. That's why I say we dug ourselves in a hole here. And this gentleman has been snowballing for almost 2 years now, and we've let him get away with it. And now, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Could I ask you a question? What is the tie, because I wasn't here in 2016, I guess, so what is the tie between the fine starting in 2016?
The fine, once you find the person in non-compliance, you impose the fine from the date you set in your original order. And in the original order, it said he had to comply by December 12, 2016. So the fine runs from December 12, 2016.
And the fine can be any amount of money that we decide.
Now, typically, the orders set what the fine amount is. Do they not do that?
That is set at the compliance hearing, so it has not been previously determined
Okay.
for any of the cases that would be at this stage.
That's interesting. Okay.
Okay,
So-
that's why I'm thinking that we might go ahead and get that fine going, but it doesn't have to be an astronomical amount.
Correct.
$50 a day for 2 years.
Pardon me?
It would be
$50 a day for 2 years.
I'm just saying some amount that we agree upon.
Does
And
it have to-
then we can also give a caveat of, okay, now and just to keep it more compliant with what we're saying just recently, is that we step that up to a certain amount. I step that up into a certain amount, much higher, much greater, to bring it to a close now.
Does the fine have to be retroactive?
Yes. Under Florida statutes, that's how it works.
Thank you.
And typically, I don't want to shake things up too much, but typically at your first hearing is when you find the person in, if you find them in violation, give them time to comply, and you establish a certain amount so that person knows at that time, I'm going to face a $100 a day fine or a $200 a day fine. You establish the fine at that time, and then at the next hearing, it actually gets imposed.
You said earlier that we may not want to open a can of worms by changing date of compliance. Was that an implication that you actually could change date of compliance?
That's not really provided for either in your codes or in Florida statutes. That is within your ability, I think, to change the date of compliance.
So that is an option for us, that we don't have to go retro, we could start this fine.
I
if we
sure
change
would-
Date of compliance.
I sure would not recommend that on a regular basis. I think that does not establish a good precedent, and I have never recommended to any of my boards to change the date of compliance, short of very, very, substantial circumstances. I understand the reticence to start a fine running, but there is a process after the fact where they can work with the city attorney's office on the total amount of the lien. So just because that's the amount of the lien doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity for them to discuss negotiating that amount.
The compliance fine amount is one of the things that's included in the form motions that was previously prepared by the board attorney. And I think we'll talk about this probably at the end of the meeting about the form motions and things like that. That would include that procedural change where the fine would be set at that fact-finding hearing rather than at the compliance hearing.
Makes more sense.
But just to bring you all back up to speed, I'll repeat the paragraph that's in the order on the case before you. The defendant is given until 9 a.m. on December 12, 2016 to correct the violations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Titusville as indicated in the finding of fact herein to the written satisfaction of the code enforcement officer, or to appear before this board at City Hall 555 South Washington Avenue, Titusville, Florida on December 12, 2016 at 2 p.m. to show cause why the defendant has not corrected said violations and why the board should not impose a fine of up to $250 per day per continuing code violation from the date set for code compliance, December 12th, 2016.
Is it the city's desire for this board to no longer continue cases if we feel that the person may need a little compassion when in achieving compliance?
It is,
I understand 2 years is a long time. I agree. Absolutely.
if there's a reasonable basis to continue a case for a short duration, then I will exercise that discretion, but I think that 2 years is too long.
Well, I agree with you there, but I was just curious to see whether the city was trying to motivate us into not continuing cases, that's all.
It would depend on the fact of the case.
How it goes. Thank you.
What do y'all want to do?
Give them what they want. I don't think we have a choice.
Tell me what you want to do, then we're gonna we'll put it in a motion and get it done. But what do you want to do right now? Bring him in next month and say this is the end?
They want us to start finding.
Is it 2 violations at $50? That's $100 a day.
What's that situation we've been in before, if there's an active permit for the work, something?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It depends on the case. This is not a case where 6-56 permit required is the violation in front of you. That's in other cases. This is about the decks and the protective treatment.
Okay.
So the permit really doesn't apply except for that he has one, and his basis for delaying the exterior portion of the work is that he needs to complete the work related to the building permit. He could paint the house, but if he's going to have to tear it down and repaint it, then why would he waste that time and energy? That was his justification for needing to complete the building permit work first.
Well, I'd like to suggest that we at least discuss a graduated fine, a lower fine amount in the earlier periods, and then, because it has been so long and we're not trying to put the guy out of his house and home, but possibly have a higher dollar amount for. Does that make sense to
I'm
anybody?
not sure we can do that.
Can you speak closer to your microphone, please?
No.
Please.
I'm not sure we can do that, or how we would go about doing that. You're saying make a,
For the first year,
A
when he
lower
was
fine.
out of compliance. I'm just throwing ideas out, okay? I
I'm
don't
not
know if
arguing
this
with
is-
you, I'm just saying I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I
if we
mean,
can do that.
I don't know if this makes any sense, you know, but maybe we could fine him a lower amount the first year and then step it up the last 6 months or something along those lines. And would that make any sense? Does
Or
that
at
help?
this point going forward, have a lower, suggestion is a lower amount up until this day
Up until
of your
some
finding
period.
of noncompliance, and then a more substantial amount this day forward.
Or someday that the board agrees to.
We can do that.
Have we been continuing this case for 2 years?
Yes, sir.
We have.
Yes, sir.
Have we heard it every month for 2
No,
years?
No, it hasn't.
came out
There was-
during the active.
There were
permit.
periods of about there was at least one period of 6 months where his permit was issued and he had the time to do the work, and the case was not heard by the board each month. And there were periods where it was continued for 2 or 3 months at a given time, where he did come before you and said, this is what I'm doing, and you would give him said periods of time to complete the work.
So this has been dragged out for 2 years because he comes and says, I promise I'm going to do this, but it doesn't happen.
Well, no, not really. He's been doing some things, and we have been giving him more time to do other things, and it's drawn out for this long.
And then he's had 2 hurricanes to top all of it off,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
He'll come in and
You
say,
can
"Oh,
build a house in 3 months.
I don't understand why we can't give him 60 days to
Microphone.
finish the job completely. Give him 60 days to finish the job completely, or the fine will be imposed from the date in December.
I agree,
Retroactive.
except maybe even the end of the year. Something realistic that they could actually complete that entire project, permitting, inspections, everything. And if he doesn't
If he has to
comply,
hire a contractor, he hires a contractor.
exactly.
His current permit ends in January?
Yes.
Am I correct? If it's not finished by January, then,
January is the expiration right now.
if it's not finished by January, then we go retroactive.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and we have to
Now,
tell him
how-
that.
Now, how much we're gonna charge him, that's up to the board. I don't know.
Can you determine the amount at this hearing that would be imposed
Yes.
in a continued? Okay.
Yes.
I say we go maximum.
250 per violation? That's $100 a day.
That's the motivation.
That'll
That's
move him.
that's what we
Move
have
somebody.
to use.
Now, can I just
I-
ask
I
one
think we-
question? Do you usually impose fines per violation or?
Yes.
Oh,
Per
okay,
violation.
okay,
$50 to $250 per violation per day.
okay.
But it's up to us to
Determine
to
within that
determine any
that
amount.
price
That's-
range.
Just because we've done 50 doesn't mean we have to do 50.
No, it's, you got an option from 50 to 250, so it could be $75, could be $175.
Mr. Herman? You were saying something, sir? You were saying something?
Norman, were
Do
you
you
saying
have
something?
Did you want to add something? Put the microphone on, okay,
No, that's fine.
okay. Put it in motion.
Chairman Bell?
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
You want to make
No,
it?
Ms. Ashley, was you going to do it? Okay, let me do it. This is the second reading, correct?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that something hasn't gotten messed up in the last 2 years. Okay, motion for finding of the fact and continued violation. I move that the board issue the following finding of the fact in case number 16-15 relating to the defendant, Richard L. Gordier II. The defendant continued to be in violation of the following sections of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Titusville on September the 10th, 2018. Section 6-109, property maintenance, subsection 304-10, stairways, decks, porches, and balconies, and section 6-109, property maintenance, subsection 304.2, protective treatment paint.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I don't think he's done.
Oh, yeah, that's why I wasn't sure if we needed a second on that. No?
Okay.
Okay.
Are you,
I'm-
no, well, we've got two motions. The first part of that motion,
Says that, yes.
okay.
Oh, that's how you do it?
Yep.
You do two motions?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, who's the second?
Or I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call vote?
Member Edens?
No.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Monis?
Yes.
Member Ozon?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
No.
Member Herman?
Yes.
Chairman Bell?
Yes. Motion carried. Next motion, please.
I move that the board issue its final judgment assessing fines and imposing liens relating to the defendant, Richard L. Gordier II, based upon the finding of the facts issued this date, and that the judgment contained the following provisions. The defendant is assessed in order to pay a fine of $150 per day per charge for each code violation. The fine shall commence December the 12th, 2016, and shall continue until the code violations have been corrected to within satisfaction of the code enforcement officers.
You sure you want to stay with $150 per violation per day?
too high.
It's too much.
Does the board think that's too high,
I
or?
think it's too high. Remember,
it's too
we
high.
talked about going short and then picking it back up. Going low and then picking it back up higher.
We're talking about 7,000 days, right? Or 700 days,
Yeah.
rather. That's a lot, even times $25 a day.
It's gonna be a lot no matter what, but it's gonna be motivation for him to do something. The case has been going on for 2 years, and nothing is, they can do what they want after. Our purpose is to get compliance, and this is one way to send them a message that
Can we settle for $100 a day?
I can settle for $100 a day.
Per violation, or $100, $50 per violation per day.
Okay, well, let's do the $50 per I'll amend it, $50 per violation per day.
Second.
Retroactive to 2016?
Retroactive to 2016, yes. December the 12th, 2016.
Okay. Motion made by Ed, second by Mr. Herman. Any
Until-
questions? Do what? Say it. All right, wait, you want a stop date? Is that what you're gonna ask?
Until when?
12/16 to when?
Until compliance is achieved, I think that's what he
Until,
said.
yeah,
Yeah.
the fine shall continue until the code violations have been corrected to within satisfaction of the code enforcement officers. So that runs until he's reached compliance on it.
Well, personally, I thought that we were going to give the gentleman till the end of this permit cycle, and if it hadn't been completed, then we were going to go retroactive. But you made the motion, and all you need is a second to get it to go.
That's the way I thought it was going, that's the way I thought it went to.
You can make that order conditioned on he's still in non-compliance on December 31st, 2018, or whatever date you want to set.
What would be the wording that would be satisfactory for you?
To continue your motion to say, on the condition that he is still in non-compliance on December 31, 2018.
Is that the date, December 31, 20?
Yeah, permit runs till January, into January.
If you wanted to give through the expiration of this permit window, it would be through January 6th, 2019.
January 6th. Would the city be, no, it's not my place to ask you, but if I was pretending to be the chairman, would the city be happy with that? Would the city be comfortable with that? If we waited until the end of this permit cycle and then lowered the boom?
I think that gives the owner a reasonable period of time to comply and achieve compliance. And this case has gone long enough that this would provide a resolution to the matter.
And I agree.
I agree.
So put the caveat on there.
Okay, can we just add on that it's going to run until?
Well, everything that you
say the
said,
wordings, I'll agree with it.
on the condition that if still in violation of any code by January
6th, 2019.
6th, 2019, period.
So moved.
And it's $50
Per
per
violation.
violation, not
Yeah,
$150.
$50 per violation per day. That would,
I'll
Everybody
second
says
that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
good a second.
All right. Any questions? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Monis?
Yes.
Yes. Me.
Member Ozon?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
No.
Member Herman?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Chairman Bell?
Yes, motion carried. All right.
All right, good job, guys.
We got till January 6th, by golly, and then it's gonna go up.
And the board attorney will craft that in the order that he will receive after this hearing.
My pleasure. Thank you. You got feet wet by fire. Yes. All right,
Okay.
Chelsea, next one, please.
The next case. The next case on your agenda is number 17-37 for the property located at 505 Short Street. This is a similar case to the one you previously heard. It's not gone on quite as long, but it also hasn't achieved as much progress as the prior case. Again, I have Officer Lewis here, I didn't see him before, sorry, to provide testimony on this case as well as the building official. And I'd like to first invite Officer Lewis up to the podium to provide the statement of what communication may have been received from the owner, Mr. Clyde Botner, on 505 Short Street. Officer Lewis, have you heard from Mr. Botner?
Yes, I have.
And what is the update that he provided? And when did he provide the update?
Okay, at the last board meeting, Mr. Botner was instructed to arrange an inspection of the property every Wednesday before the next scheduled board meeting to give us an opportunity to look and see what he was doing. He has not done that. He finally sent an email today. I was at the property last Friday and took a couple pictures that I think you'll be interested in seeing. I have twice in the last month, actually 3 times, told Mr. Botner he has no inspections at all called in on this work. Everything he has done does not have the first inspection of any description.
Did you call him and tell him this information?
Yes, I did.
And you got in touch with him on the phone, or did you leave him messages?
I spoke to him on the phone. I spoke to him again this morning and reminded him that he did not have any inspections whatsoever done on this property.
And what was his response?
He said, I have a permit.
Did you discuss the roof with him?
Yes, I did.
Do you have pictures you'd like to show the board?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. Let's get the podium, or the overhead. Oh, there you go. You can put it down.
If you will recall, great.
Here, let me help you.
I think it's the picture. The lap's not good inside there. If the board could recall, last month, Mr. Botner put this metallic covering over the roof, or what was left of the roof. It's basically an open space. He put that there. As you can see in this picture here, and I'm sure Mr. Stefalowicz can back me up, you'll see in this picture here, this is actually the top of the wall. That's the top of the top plate. This metal is resting on that. There's no framing in between. In this area right in here, there's no framing whatsoever supporting that or holding it. I guess on that stuff, he just went and tied right to the, back here, he just screwed it down to it. And he doesn't have any inspections on this.
I'll have Mr. Stefalowicz speak on the inspections. If you wanted to show the photos.
Okay. Now, for reference, this is another picture taken the same day that this one was taken, last Thursday. That is actually part of the old roof that he just collapsed down inside the building and left. Of what was left of the roof.
So what's on the roof now?
It's some type of metallic covering.
Do you have any other photos for the board?
I have the photos from last month.
Okay, I'll present these for evidence.
And he was required to submit a progress report monthly. You got something emailed today. What did it say, basically?
No, he just, today it said he'd been making progress on the house and he tried to be done by the end of the month.
No, there's no evidence of that.
I can read into the record the message that Mr. Botner wrote. I have it in front of me. He writes, I have made progress on the house at 505 Short Street. I'm covering the gable ends with a siding which is already painted the right color. I still lack pressure washing and painting the outside of the house, which are due this month. I have the yard mowed and cleaned up. I will remove the building materials new and old by this month. At the end of this month, plan on calling code enforcement inspector out to final everything that was found to be in violation. Thank you for allowing me time to complete this project. All the best and blessings, Clyde.
And these pictures were taken last Friday, right?
Yes.
Thursday the 6th.
Thursday.
Okay.
And I believe it's called, 108.1.1, Unsafe Structure.
Officer Lewis, do you believe this property is still an unsafe structure?
I do.
I do.
Officer Lewis, thank you. I'm going to invite Mr. Stepalovich up as well.
Look unsafe to you?
Mr. Stepalovich, have you had an opportunity to review the building permit that was issued for the repairs at 505 Short Street and whether any inspections have been called on that property?
I have.
And what is the response?
There's been no inspections on the property since the permit was reissued.
Do you have any comment on the roof repair that was displayed by Frank on the overhead?
I have not physically looked at the actual property myself, but given the evidence that was presented, it's in pretty rough shape.
The board previously continued this case until this hearing based on the fact that an active building permit was obtained by the owner on July 6th, the same date as the prior case. It just happens that they both received their permit on the same day. Frank, as of last week, hadn't had any communication. We got the email we just heard today. So based on that information, I do not feel that we've received substantial progress, and I think that the message came in quite late because it wasn't there at my pre-board meeting last week, and I do not see that this owner is pursuing appropriate inspections for the work that he's doing, and it seems to be a continuing unsafe structure that the city would like to find a final judgment and impose fine and lien on this property. Does the board members have any questions of the building official?
Just because they have a permit does not render what he's done appropriate, lack of a better word.
That's correct.
And they understand this when they get a permit? I mean,
Yes, they understand.
I mean, they're smart enough to understand this?
They understand that they're required to comply with the Florida Building Code as far as their types of construction, the work that they're doing.
And that roof,
It's not.
or lack of roof, as far as you can tell, is not in compliance.
From the obvious,
From the pictures.
Looked at the pictures, no, sir.
So let me understand this right. If someone should come in here and the case was presented to us and they went out and they got a building permit and never contacted you to have an inspection or anything like that and did minimal something to the property to show that they did something but not really, right, and never contacted you, right, we still can find them in violation. And it doesn't make any difference because they're not meeting with the
City.
They may have a building permit and still be in violation of other codes.
okay, so they still can be in violation.
Yes, and you can find them in violation and impose a lien. They're separate issues.
Yes, I do just want to add that, please remember, that's entirely separate. Your findings and your orders are entirely separate from the administrative process going on with the building permitting process.
Okay.
You don't have to enter orders based on how long they have under their permit, because they can keep getting new permits and letting them expire.
Okay, so
And you're-
getting a building permit is not a hall pass card and say, okay,
Correct.
I'm free and I
Correct.
can do whatever I want.
Yeah. Correct.
That's what I was under the assumption that building permit was a hall pass
Apparently
card.
it is.
This case
Thank you.
was initiated in April of 2017, and in June of 2018, just a few months ago, this board made a finding that the defendant was given until July 9th to correct the violation of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Titusville as indicated in the finding of fact herein to the written satisfaction of the code enforcement officer, or to appear before this board at City Hall on July 9th, 2018 at 2 p.m. to provide a progress status report and show cause why the defendant has not corrected said violation and why the board should not proceed to impose a fine of up to $250 per day from the date set for code compliance, July 9th, 2018.
And we gave him some more
2
time.
months so far.
Okay.
That was so the date would be July 9th.
Correct.
Okay, so you did change whatever their first order was.
There was no the prior order. There was a continuation at the beginning of the case. And so that's when
Oh.
that evidence finally got
Got it,
entered and
right.
presented with a finding of fact made by this board.
Okay, so the compliance date is July 9th,
Yes, ma'am.
2018.
Okay.
All right,
Madam Chairman,
go ahead.
Motion for finding of the fact continued violation. I move that the board issue the following finding of the fact in case number 17-37 relating to the defendant Clyde Botner Incorporated. The defendant continued to be in violation of the following sections of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Titusville on September the 10th, 2018. Section 6-109, property maintenance, subsection 108.1.1, unsafe structure.
Second. Second. Okay, motion by Ed, second by Ashley. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Ozon,
Yes.
Member Richardson,
Yes.
Member Herman,
Yes.
Member Edens,
Yes.
Member Grant,
Yes.
Member Monis,
Yes.
Chairman Bell.
Yes. Motion carried. Next motion, please.
Before you get started, this case previously had reserved the costs, which must be assessed. The costs in the amount of $357.43 were presented as evidence, and that was previously reserved.
Okay, 357.47?
$357.43.
43, okay. Okay, take it away.
I'm
Ed.
sorry, I didn't,
The,
what was
the cost, the city cost of 357.43 was reserved, so you can add it into this time?
Okay, 357.23.
No, 357.43.
That's what I was having a problem with. Okay, motion for the final judgment assessing fines. I move that the board issue its final judgment assessing fines and imposing liens relating to the defendant, Clyde Botner Incorporated. Based upon the I lost my place. Based upon the finding of the fact issued this date, and that the judgment contained the following provisions. The defendant is ordered to pay a fine of $150 per day per charge for the violations of Section 6-109, property maintenance, subsection 108.1.1, unsafe structure. And also the order to pay the costs incurred by the city to bring this case before the board of $357.43.
Second.
The fine shall commence on July the 9th, 2018, and shall, 2018, and shall continue until the code violations have been corrected to written satisfaction of the code enforcement officer.
Second.
Motion by Ed, second by Ashley. Any questions?
Was there a fine already established on this, or no?
No,
Okay. All right.
no. It was just the city costs were assessed but held in reserve.
Okay. All right.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Richardson,
Yes.
Member Herman,
Yes.
Member Edens,
Yes.
Member Grant,
Yes.
Member Monis,
Yes.
Member Ozon, Chairman Bell.
Yes. Motion carried. You will be notifying him. All right. So he's got the fine plus the city cost assessed. Got it, Greg. All right, next one, please.
The next case on the agenda is number 18-73 for the property located at 4105 Hood Avenue. In your agenda, there's a sentence that is inaccurate at the end of the paragraph that talks about the case summary here. There was an order to correct by September 10th, 2018. That was the decision made at the August 13th Code Board meeting. It was not continued last month, so I just wanted to make you all aware.
So it's ordered to correct by today.
Correct. That's just a correction to the agenda. And so now we have the property located at 4105 Hood Ave. Officer Crisco. I didn't get the word. Officer Crisco, did you have an opportunity to inspect the property at 4105 Hood Avenue?
Yes and no. I was there this morning for an explanation, and the entire fence has been secured, so I cannot verify the complaint anymore. So normally under these conditions, I close them out.
So you are choosing to withdraw the swimming pool maintenance and the enclosure
If that's-
violations?
Is that the terminology? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, this case was previously presented with an order to correct by this board, and based on the testimony given from the officer, the city is going to be withdrawing the case, and I'll need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Motion by Ashley, second by
Second.
Susan. Okay. Motion by Ashley, second by Susan. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Monis?
Yes.
Member Ozon?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Herman? Oh, he's not here. Chairman Bell?
Yes. Motion carried.
See, I don't get these anymore. She didn't get it. I don't get these anymore.
It's okay.
All right.
The next case on the agenda is number 18-106 for the property located at 314 Boy Street. This case was also ordered to be corrected by Friday, September 7th, at the previous board hearing. And this property was brought into compliance by August 30th, and therefore the city will be closing this case. And I have Officer Crisco here to provide testimony if necessary, but I'll need a motion to close this case.
Second?
Moved. I had to retro move because I wasn't on.
All right, now who did what?
I moved it, Arl seconded it. None of us did it on the microphone.
Okay, motion by Ashley, so moved. Second by
Second by
RL.
me.
Okay. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Monis?
Yes.
Member Ozon?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Chairman Bell?
Yes, motion carried. All right. New cases.
Okay, new business. The first case listed under new business is number 18-116 for the property located at 585 Birchwood Lane. The city requests to continue this case until October as there is an eviction in process for this property.
You need
Second.
You need a motion on that one?
I heard it.
Okay, well, what'd you say, not to withdraw, but to continue?
To continue until October.
Okay, motion by Ashley, second by Ed.
Other way around.
Oh, motion by Ed, second by Ashley. Any questions? In eviction. Roll call vote, please.
Member Ozon?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Monis?
Yes.
Member Herman?
No, he can't.
You can't
Oh,
vote.
he can't? Oh.
We've done it here.
Chairman Bell?
Yes, motion carried. All right, so it will be continued till next month.
The next case on your agenda, number 18-117 for the property located at 2225 Monticello Court. The city requests to continue this matter until your October Code Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second? Probably better.
Second by Sandra. Okay, motion by Ashley, second by Sandra. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Grant,
Yes.
Member Monis,
Yes.
Member Herman,
Yes.
Member Ozon,
Yes.
Chairman Bell.
Yes, motion carried. Oh, yeah, this is on here.
The next case on the agenda is number 18-120. I have Officer Tuggle here to provide testimony and information regarding this case. We're going forward again with the new PowerPoint presentation that we tried out last month. This is, again, another new case that we're going to be doing that with, and so we'll get that PowerPoint going in just a second. I'd like to make a procedural amendment before we get into Ashley's evidence, and that is that I have a copy of the warranty deed for this property located at 1475 Thornton Ave. You'll hear about it being a repeat violation case. You've heard this case before, and in the previous case, you heard that the defendant, the respondent, is Clara Walsh Life Estate, along with her daughter, Carol Garrett. And I have this deed to present to you to see that there are two named individuals on the deed that own this property, and I'd like to amend your notice and future documents relating to this case to include Carol Garrett as a respondent, as she's responsible and the living owner of this property.
And she got notice as well, right? She received notice of this case.
Yes, that's correct. Board secretary mailed notice to Carol Garrett in Gainesville. So unless there's any questions about amending the notice, I'll turn it over to Ashley. But Ms. Nutcher, would you like a motion to amend the notices to include Carol Garrett before we get into additional information?
No.
Okay.
No.
Code Board case number 18-120 is for the property at 1475 Thornton Avenue. Both the notice of violation and the notice of hearing and complaint were mailed to the property address and to Carol Garrett at the Gainesville address. The violation was 13-26 for overgrowth. It is a repeat violator. This case was before the board, or this property was before the board in December of 2016, where they were found in violation of overgrowth. We personally, as a city, have mowed this property 7 times, and this would be the 8th time if we mow it. The initial inspection was on 6/18 of 2018. Notice was mailed on the 19th. It was returned that the property was vacant on July 2nd of 2018. The notice of hearing was sent on 8/30, or actually, it was posted at City Hall and on the property. The certified mail was returned unclaimed from Gainesville, and then also from the local address. They were given till June 28th of 2018 to comply. I have not had any contact from the owner. I did follow-up inspections on June 28th, July 12th, August 8th, September 5th, and this morning. A neighbor has been mowing the front yard just as a courtesy. The backyard, however, has not been touched. 13-26, the specific portion of this violation that applies to this property is grass in excess of 12 inches in height from the ground. This was on the initial inspection on 6/18. As you can see, the front yard's being maintained. The backyard is overgrown. This was on 6/28, the date of compliance. Backyard's just a little bit taller. This was on July 12th, same thing. This was on 9/5. Apparently the neighbor hadn't gotten to it yet. This is the backyard as of this morning. And this is the front yard as of this morning, so someone has mowed it since the picture on the 5th.
No one's living there?
No. It's been vacant for several years. This is where it was posted by Officer Lewis for Code Board, and you can see the original notice of violation at the very top. and a previous violation there in the middle. Based on the testimony and evidence presented in 18-120, it's determined that the respondent, Clara A. Walsh Life Estate, is the owner of the record of property located at 1475 Thornton Avenue, located in Titusville, Florida, as determined by the property appraiser records, in possession or control of the property, and in violation of Section 13-26 of the Titusville Code of Ordinance as defined.
You want to revise the name of the owner?
Yes. Yes, to add Carol Garrett on there as well. It is for order the respondent to correct the violation on or before September 17th, 2018. In order to correct the violation, the respondent must remove all overgrowth from the property. Order the respondent to be assessed the administrative costs, and there's a correction in that amount of $150.88. If the respondent does not comply with the order, a fine of $500 a day will be imposed as a repeat violator for each day the violation continues. And the respondent must contact me by phone to verify that the property is in compliance.
Can I ask a question real quick? Why, because it's a repeat violation, why are you giving them time to comply? Is that just what you normally do?
Yes.
Because under the statute, you can start the fine from the day you first, but that you don't do it that way. Okay.
And I have a question, Chelsea. Why would the daughter put her name on there if she's not going to be compliant either?
What happened, as I understand, is the deed was in the name of Clara Walsh, and she gave herself a life estate, and she gave her daughter the ability to own the property after she died. So this mother's decision has...
And she's now deceased?
Yes, ma'am, but the death certificate has not been recorded. And so it remains in the name of a life estate because there's no public record to prove. Although I've seen an obituary, there's no death certificate that's been recorded, and I know from talking with Carol Garrett in Gainesville that that's what's going on here.
And you have spoken with her, but you have not spoken with her.
I've spoken with her on previous cases. When the 2016 case was established, after it reached a final judgment by this board, the case was turned over to my office for collection purposes, and I was able to get in touch with her and have a phone call with her. But that was the extent of the communication we've had, and I've tried to call her on the current case, and she has not answered.
So there's been no contact whatsoever with Carol Garrett?
Not in 2018 with my office.
Do we know if she's still alive?
I have no evidence one way or another.
Do you know how long it's been vacant?
I don't.
Do you know when Mrs. Walsh died? Do you know that?
I don't know.
I'm thinking she was in a nursing home, if I remember correctly.
All right, I'll make a motion. I move that the board issue the following findings of facts in case number 18-120 relating to the defendant, Clara A. Walsh Life Estate and Carol Garrett. The defendant was properly notified of the violations as alleged in the complaint. The defendant is the owner of or in possession of the real property located at 1475 Thornton Avenue, Titusville, Florida. The defendant is in violation of the following provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Titusville, Section 13-26, by reason of overgrowth.
Second?
Motion by Ashley, second by Ed. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Monis?
Yes.
Member Ozon?
Yes.
Member Herman?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Chairman Bell?
Yes, motion carried. Next motion, please.
I move that the board issue its order to correct relating to the defendant, Clara A. Walsh Life Estate and Carol Garrett. Adjudging the defendants to be in violation of the section of Code of Ordinances of the City of Titusville is determined in the findings of fact. Giving the defendant until 9 a.m. on September 17th, 2018 to correct the violations to the written satisfaction of the code enforcement officer or to appear before this board at City Hall, Titusville, Florida on October the 8th, 2018 to show cause why the violation have not been corrected and why the board should not proceed to impose a fine or the violations. The defendant is ordered to pay $150.88, which represents the cost incurred by the City of Titusville to bring this case before the board.
Second?
She said it. She made an amendment to the
She made an
400
amendment
and.
to the amendment.
So it's no longer 410?
I'd like to, it is not 410. It is
$158.88.
$150.88, and I have 3 documents of evidence that I'd like to submit to the record, one being the cost recovery statement that I'm about to give you in the amount of $150.88.
I know, well, they must have changed something. 410's probably like the normal, and then they've made some edit.
Did you get a second?
Not yet.
Yes.
Yes, no, second one, no, she's making an amendment, so let's see what the amendment is.
One reason you may see a difference on the cost recovery statement from prior cost recovery statements is that there is a Attorney General's opinion out there that says attorney's costs cannot be included in the recovery statement. So that's the reduction from what you would have seen in prior statements. Holding the Attorney General's opinion in my hand, and I can share it with you all as board members if you'd like me to send it to you, or Attorney Nutcher, who shared it with us, may want to share it with you. At the end of the meeting, I'm sure we'll talk about some training and upcoming events that we'll all talk about, but that is the reason why the cost recovery statement is different from what you may have seen previously.
And so we'll see that across the board.
Yes.
I don't have a fine, I have the order correct. I still have a week to get it done. Mhm.
Okay, I need to do my roll call vote because we didn't do that part. Roll call vote, please. Roll call, whatever. Too much to say.
Who was the second?
Ed?
Member Edens?
Yes.
Member Moniz?
Yes.
Member Ozon?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Herman?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Chairman Bell?
Yes, motion carried. Okay. So now you send that notice to Carol.
We're required by statute to send it to 1475 Thornton because that's the property appraiser address, but we'll also send it to Gainesville because we know that's where she had her last known address.
Okay, thanks. All right, next one, please.
The last case listed under new business is number 18-122 for the property located at 4755 Key Madera Drive, and the city wishes to close this case as it is in compliance. That finishes the active business on your agenda for today, and I'll move it back to you, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, thank you. Who? What about him? Oh, okay. Okay. Ms. Deborah, do you have a board attorney report?
I don't at this time, but it would be nice if I could kind of get together with you all at some time and discuss procedures or answer questions.
That's a good idea.
I would like to propose maybe an hour before a meeting, maybe not the next meeting, but whatever meeting works for you all, if you could agree to come at an hour before the regularly scheduled time for your meeting, if that works for Ms. Nutcher. If not, then some other time, but to have you all together for a pre-meeting, perhaps, if you wanted to do it as a group.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then a sunshine training, and we would notice it to the public. There wouldn't be things on the regular code board agenda for this first hour, but you could go over all of the sunshine and ethics and any
Compliance.
questions you may need to ask your attorney.
That be all right with everybody?
And it doesn't need to be next month, because I know she's just getting started, but I would like you all to be able to participate. So if you want to check your calendars and get back with us.
Do you think November would be a smaller calendar on your end, on our end?
It will be.
So we can do it, plan it for November?
Yes, ma'am.
November, everybody, those are not here, those who are chimps or whatever, please plan on being here in November, whatever date that is. An hour early, please.
Yeah, November 12th.
Okay, so be here at 1 o'clock instead of 2. If for some reason you can't be here, please let me know or let Megan know. That would be great. That's also Veterans Day. We do meet that day.
Will someone be contacting the co-chairman or is?
I'll let them know.
Okay.
Anything else you have, Deborah?
Nothing more, thanks.
Okay. City Attorney's report?
I just want to say thank you very much to our new Code Board Attorney for joining us today. I think that we hit the ground running, and I am really grateful for you joining us here at the City of Titusville, and I look forward to a good working relationship in the future. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Mr. Glenn?
I too would like to welcome Ms. Nutcher aboard and look forward to exciting times working with her. But additionally, on a sad note, is our code officer, Bob Crisco's last code board meeting with y'all. He has turned in his paperwork to retire as of October the 5th.
Aw. Oh, Bob.
Thank you all for your courtesy. It's nice for me to be a professional.
Been hearing that for a year.
You're gonna be a professional grandfather? Here or up north? You're moving?
Now we're gonna come down here during the winter. Oh.
Okay, we'll come visit.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And many returns, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Bob retiring. Okay, my report. I really don't have a report, but I want to let you know that out of everybody we interviewed, this is the lady that we really, really, really liked out of everybody. So we want to keep her, so y'all be nice to her. But welcome aboard. And thanks for getting your feet wet today, really wet. Mr. Richardson, you have something for the board members report.
Yes, I discussed with Attorney Rogers when he'd like to have a going away luncheon. And he finally says, it's okay, any date, any time is okay with him. So it doesn't have to be before the meeting, it can be any day. There's a lot more restaurants open in Titusville any day except Monday, which we did it before. And Mike Cunningham and what's her name? Jean Hillock will be there. Any date in mind from the board.
I thought Mr. Rogers said we had to meet in Costa Rica.
No, he's going surfing in
Costa
Rica. I think 2 weeks. Are y'all going to be here in 2 weeks?
I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I'll discuss it with him, and we'll let you know as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you. I'll leave that in your hands to
Do I have the title of social chairman?
Yes, you do. You've got the social chairman title. Go for it. Anything else? All right, we are adjourned at 3:30.